The galaxy was vast, and in its endless darkness countless civilizations rose and fell. Among the strongest of them was the Karen Dominion, a ruthless empire built on conquest. The Karen were feared because they never spared an enemy. To them, war was not just survival, but a tradition. They had erased dozens of worlds, enslaved hundreds of species, and left entire star systems as silent graves. When their fleets appeared on the horizon of any world, the outcome was always the same: surrender or destruction. One quiet night on Earth, humanity had no idea that their planet was being studied by the Dominion. At this time, humans had only just begun to send ships to the stars. They had reached nearby colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter, and a few brave vessels had touched the edges of interstellar space. Yet compared to the vast fleets of the Karen, humanity was still like children learning how to walk. Admiral Thalrin, commander of a massive Karen battle group, stared at the glowing blue image of Earth on his holoscreen. Reports came in from his officers: primitive defense systems, limited fleet, no planetary shields, estimated resistance time 2 days at most. The officers waited for his command. For the Karen, this was routine. Another weak species, another victory. The younger commanders were eager to prove themselves, and they expected Thalrin to order the attack immediately. But the admiral did not speak right away. His reptilian eyes studied the image of Earth. He saw its oceans, its continents, its tiny satellites circling in low orbit. Something about the world gave him pause. Perhaps it was the way the humans had spread so quickly into space despite their youth. Perhaps it was the strange determination he had read in their intercepted transmissions, messages of hope, curiosity, and unity. "Admiral," one officer said impatiently, "the humans are vulnerable. One strike and they will fall. Shall we begin the cleansing?" Thalrin leaned back in his command chair. His scales caught the faint light of the bridge and his voice came out low but firm. "No, we will not destroy them." The officers stared in disbelief. Silence filled the command deck. Finally, another captain spoke, almost in shock. "Admiral, that is against protocol. Weak species are not spared. If the Council hears of this, I will take responsibility," Thalrin interrupted. His tone was final, leaving no room for argument. "Withdraw the fleet. Mark this system as low priority. Humanity will not be touched." The bridge erupted in murmurs. To spare an enemy was unheard of. Some officers whispered that the admiral had grown soft. Others thought he had seen something that they could not. Yet no one dared challenge his direct order. Within hours, the Karen fleet vanished back into hyperspace, leaving Earth untouched and unaware of how close it had come to annihilation. On Earth, life continued as normal. People worked, dreamed, and looked to the stars with wonder. Only a few strange readings from long-range telescopes hinted that powerful fleets had passed near the solar system. No one understood the danger they had narrowly escaped. But in secret Karen circles, the decision spread like wildfire. Admirals questioned Thalrin's sanity. The Dominion Council debated his loyalty. Yet no punishment was carried out. Perhaps they thought humanity too unimportant to matter. Perhaps they believed sparing one world was harmless. The decision was recorded, dismissed, and forgotten by most. For Thalrin, however, the choice weighed heavily. Alone in his private chamber, he reflected on the strange feeling he had when he looked at Earth. "Why did I spare them?" he asked himself. He had no clear answer. He only knew that something about the humans seemed different, though he could not explain why. Years passed. Humanity began to push deeper into space. They colonized planets, built fleets, and traded with friendly alien species. Still, they remained unaware of the day they had been spared. To them, progress was simply the result of effort and invention, but stories have a way of traveling through the stars. A few whispers escaped from Karen archives, rumors of a planet that should have been destroyed but was mysteriously spared. Traders repeated the tale in hushed tones. Refugees from other wars carried the rumor with them, and slowly across spaceports and colonies a legend began to form. "They say the humans were given mercy once," aliens would whisper. "They were allowed to live when they should have been wiped away." Most dismissed it as myth. But the story reached human ears too. Scholars debated its truth. Soldiers took it as a challenge. Leaders considered it a warning. On Earth, the phrase "spared once, never again" began to spread. It became a quiet motto, carved into military academies and whispered in political chambers. If the tale was true, then humanity owed its survival not to strength but to chance. one act of mercy. And if that was the case, they swore never to rely on mercy again. Admiral Thalrin, now older, followed humanity's growth from afar. Though he had long retired, he sometimes requested intelligence reports about Earth. His aides could not understand his curiosity, but they obeyed. He watched with interest as humans advanced faster than expected. He saw their colonies grow in hostile environments where other species would have failed. He read about their wars among themselves and how each time they rebuilt stronger than before. And in his heart he wondered if sparing them had been wisdom or a mistake. Yet still he felt no regret. He had given them a chance and they had taken it. For humanity, the first part of their story in the galaxy began not with conquest but with mercy. Unknown to them, it was the fragile gift that allowed their species to rise. In time, they would repay that mercy in ways the galaxy could not imagine. But for now, Earth lived in peace, its people looking upward at the stars, dreaming of a future they had nearly lost. Humanity's rise decades had passed since the day Admiral Thalrin had spared Earth. Humanity never truly knew how close it had come to destruction. Yet the unknown gift of mercy became the foundation for everything that followed. The 21st century had been filled with challenges, climate change, wars, and divisions that seemed impossible to heal. But something changed as humans reached for the stars. The first colonies on Mars had been dangerous, but they succeeded. The settlements on Titan and Europa faced hardships, but humans adapted. Each challenge made them stronger, and each obstacle they overcame became a story of pride. By the middle of the 22nd century, humanity had mastered faster than light travel. Their ships, once slow and fragile, now glided through the void on currents of folded space. Whole fleets were built, not for war but for exploration and protection of their growing colonies. A new unity humanity had always struggled with unity. Nations often clashed, politics divided, and greed caused conflict. But when humanity expanded beyond Earth, something unusual happened. People realized they were no longer just citizens of countries, they were citizens of Earth. When colonists looked back from Mars at the small blue sphere shining in the distance, borders and flags seemed smaller. They began to call themselves simply humans. The phrase, "spared once, never again," became more than a rumor. It was painted on starship hulls, engraved into academy walls, and whispered among young cadets. Whether or not the story was true, it became a promise. Humanity would never again rely on another's mercy for survival. The age of expansion, with unity came ambition. Humanity spread to nearby systems. Planets that others had considered uninhabitable were claimed by humans, who adapted with determination. Harsh deserts, frozen wastelands, toxic atmospheres, all became homes. Alien traders who passed through human space were astonished. "They build cities where no life should exist," one alien merchant said in disbelief. Do they not fear failure? But that was humanity's secret. They did fear failure, yet they continued anyway. They built ships larger and stronger, capable of carrying thousands across light years. They constructed orbital stations that circled alien suns. They created universities dedicated not just to science, but to understanding alien languages, art, and culture. Humans became known as the species that never wasted time. Every year they pushed further, faster, and higher. Old rivals fading on Earth itself, old rivalries softened. Wars between nations became rare. Conflicts were now settled in councils that represented the whole planet. For the first time in history, Earth had a united planetary government. It was not perfect. Humans still argued, debated, and struggled. But there was progress. Soldiers who once prepared to fight each other now trained side by side. Engineers from different nations built ships together. Scientists shared discoveries freely. Humanity had found something greater than nationalism. It had found purpose. And at the heart of that purpose was the quiet legend, the idea that once, long ago, they had been spared by an unknown hand. That single chance drove them forward. Meeting the neighbors, as humans expanded, they began to meet other civilizations. Some were cautious but willing to trade. Others were indifferent, viewing humans as little more than newcomers with enthusiasm but little influence. On the space station Helios Prime, humans traded food, technology, and art with dozens of alien races. Though other species often saw them as reckless, they also admired humanity's persistence. "They are loud," one alien diplomat commented, But they are kind. They bring music, stories, and strange foods wherever they go. They have a way of making friends where others would find only enemies. This was another part of humanity's rise. While many civilizations guarded themselves with suspicion, humans reached out with open hands. They learned languages, shared technology, and helped smaller colonies that struggled with famine or disaster. Slowly, humanity built a reputation, not as conquerors but as allies. The shadow of the Karen yet. The galaxy was not safe. The Karen Dominion still ruled with an iron fist. To them, humans were insignificant. They did not fear or respect Earth. Most Karen leaders barely remembered Admiral Thalrin's decision decades earlier. But whispers remained. Some species, secretly oppressed by the Dominion, began to speak to humans in private. They shared stories of Karen brutality, of worlds stripped bare and civilizations erased. They looked at humans with cautious hope. "You grow fast," one alien said quietly to a human envoy. "Maybe one day you will be strong enough to stand where others have fallen." The humans did not answer with arrogance. They simply listened and remembered. Building the future, by the end of the century, humanity had become something new. They were no longer fragile children of Earth. They were explorers, builders, diplomats, and protectors. Their fleets patrolled the edges of their colonies, not to expand by force but to ensure safety. Children in schools were taught both the triumphs and failures of the past. They learned about Earth's struggles, about the wars that nearly destroyed them, and about the importance of never taking survival for granted. And in quiet lessons they were told the old story. Once we were spared. We do not know why, but because of that chance we live. Never again shall we depend on the mercy of others. We will stand strong. It was more than a story. It was a vow passed to every new generation. A species remembering for humanity. The decades of growth were not easy. Colonists died in accidents. Ships were lost in the void. Diseases spread on new worlds. Yet every tragedy was followed by determination to rebuild. Alien observers began to notice this pattern. While other species often surrendered after great losses, humans seemed to rise higher after each fall. A saying grew among traders: "Humans remember every mercy, every kindness, and every loss, and they repay them all." This saying spread almost as quickly as humanity itself. To allies, it was a promise of loyalty. To enemies, it was a warning. The seed of legend in the end. Humanity's rise was not simply about technology or colonies. It was about spirit. The mercy once given by Admiral Thalrin, unknown to most, doubted by many, had become a seed that grew into legend. The galaxy had not yet realized what was coming. The Dominion dismissed humans as unimportant. Other species underestimated them, but humanity remembered, and in their memory, strength was forged. As one historian on Earth wrote in his journal, "We are the children of mercy, but we will not remain children forever. We will rise, and when the stars test us, we will show them why mercy must never be given lightly." And so humanity continued to grow, preparing for a future they could not yet see. The rise had only just begun. The galaxy forgets the past. The galaxy was vast, and in its endless distances, memories faded quickly. Civilizations rose and fell, wars started and ended, and stories were told and forgotten. Among these countless tales was the small legend that once, humanity had been spared by the Karen Dominion. But legends are fragile things. To most of the galaxy, it became little more than a rumor, something told by traders in dark corners of spaceports or whispered in the halls of forgotten colonies. Few took it seriously. Most believed it was impossible. The Karen were ruthless. They did not show mercy. How could such a tale be true? And so the galaxy moved on. It watched humanity expand, but it did not see the hidden fire behind their growth. Humanity's place in the galaxy by now, humanity had claimed dozens of systems. They built strong colonies, thriving stations, and busy trade routes. Human ships became a common sight, carrying goods, stories, and ideas across the stars. To most alien civilizations, humans were seen as enthusiastic newcomers, brave, yes, but still young compared to ancient powers. Species that had ruled for thousands of years looked at humans and smiled with patience, as though watching children playing. "They are clever," one alien counselor said, "but they are impatient. They do not yet understand the weight of time." Others dismissed humanity entirely. Another species with big dreams, said a Karen captain with disdain. "Give them a century more, and they will collapse under their own ambition." The galaxy had forgotten that once, humanity had been spared. And with that forgetting came underestimation. The growing tension. Despite the outward peace, the galaxy was not free of danger. The Karen Dominion still held power. Their fleets patrolled hundreds of systems, enforcing their rule through fear. Many smaller civilizations lived under their control, paying tribute and hiding their resentment. But the Karen no longer paid attention to Earth. To them, humanity was too small to matter. Their records of Admiral Thalrin's decision gathered dust in forgotten archives. Young Karen officers barely knew the name of the planet they had once spared. This arrogance would prove dangerous. Meanwhile, humanity continued to grow stronger. Their fleets became faster, their weapons more advanced. Their unity deepened as they remembered their motto: spared once, never again. Even if the galaxy had forgotten the legend, humanity had not. A new generation of humans was now leading the colonies. These were not the pioneers who had first stepped onto Mars or the scientists who had built the first faster-than-light engines. These were children born in space, raised under alien suns, and taught that humanity's survival was never guaranteed. They had grown up hearing the old legend, that once, long ago, Earth had been spared. To them, it was not just a story. It was a reminder. They believed that one day, the mercy they had received would no longer protect them, and when that day came, they vowed to be ready. In academies across the colonies, young cadets trained with discipline. Their instructors would often say, "Never forget. We were given a chance once. It will not be given again. We must earn our place." And so they studied harder, trained longer, and worked with determination. The first test, the galaxy's memory may have faded, but events soon forced it to remember humanity once again. It began at the edge of human space, on a colony world called Erebos. The planet was rich in minerals, and its mines were vital for human fleets. But its location placed it close to the borders of Karen-controlled space. One day, without warning, a Karen warship entered the system. Its commander demanded tribute, claiming Erebos lay within Dominion territory. The colonists, proud and defiant, refused. The Karen captain laughed at their resistance. "Do you truly think you can defy us? We are the Dominion. You are nothing." But the colonists were not afraid. They sent a signal to the nearest human fleet. Within hours, ships arrived, not massive armadas, but enough to stand. Sleek human vessels bearing the symbol of the United Planetary Government moved into formation. The Karen commander was surprised. He had not expected resistance. In his mind, humans were still weak. He did not realize that decades of preparation had changed them. The battle was short but fierce. Human ships fought with precision, using tactics the Karen did not expect. Though outnumbered, they struck with clever maneuvers targeting the enemy's weak points. For the first time in centuries, a Karen warship was forced to retreat. The victory sent shockwaves across the region. The Galaxy Reacts news traveled quickly through the trade routes. Humans stood against the Karen, merchants whispered, and they won. Some aliens laughed, believing it was only luck. Others grew curious. And in the hearts of oppressed civilizations, hope stirred. If humans can resist the Dominion, they thought, perhaps there is a chance for us too. But in Karen halls, the event was seen as an insult. Commanders demanded revenge. Counselors debated how to respond. To them, humanity's defiance was not strength. It was arrogance that needed to be crushed. And yet not all Karen agreed. A few remembered the name Thalrin, the admiral who had once spared Earth. They recalled his unusual words, his belief that humans were different. Some began to wonder if perhaps he had seen something they had missed. Humanity's resolve on Earth, the Erebos victory, was celebrated, not as a conquest but as proof. Proof that they could defend themselves. Proof that they had risen from fragile beginnings to a species that could no longer be ignored. In the Central Council, leaders spoke with determination. "We must not grow arrogant," one said. "This victory is only the beginning. The galaxy will test us again." Another replied, "And we will be ready. Spared once, never again." The phrase echoed through the chambers, repeated by soldiers, workers, and colonists across the stars. Humanity had not forgotten. They had waited for this moment, and now it had come. A forgotten warning, deep in the archives of the Dominion. an old record still lay. It was the report of Admiral Thalrin, the man who had once spared Earth. Few read it and fewer cared, yet within its lines were words that now seemed prophetic. This species will not remain weak forever. They are restless, determined, and unafraid of hardship. If spared, they will grow, and one day they will become more than you can imagine. The galaxy had forgotten, the Karen had ignored it. But humanity remembered, and their rise was only beginning. In the quiet of space where stars burned with ancient light, humanity's legend was waiting to be written again. The mercy once given was fading into myth, but soon it would return, not as a story of weakness, but as the foundation of strength. The galaxy had forgotten the past. Humanity had not, and in that difference lay the future. When the galaxy tests humanity, humanity had grown strong, disciplined, and wise. The colonies thrived under united governance, and their fleets patrolled the edges of their territory. They had learned that the galaxy was a place of wonder and danger, filled with species that were sometimes friendly, sometimes indifferent, and sometimes hostile. Yet nothing had prepared them for what was about to come. A growing threat far beyond human space. A coalition of alien powers formed. They called themselves the Crimson Concord, a group of civilizations that had long felt humans were insignificant. Young, reckless, untested, they said. They are nothing compared to the empires of old. For years they watched humans expand quietly. The Crimson Concord underestimated them, believing humanity's rise was only temporary. In secret, they planned an attack. Their goal was simple: seize the richest human colonies, destroy the fleets, and remind the galaxy that humans were small and weak. The first target was Callistra, a vibrant colony at the edge of known human space. Callistra was rich in rare minerals and home to tens of thousands of colonists. If it fell, the human economy would tremble. Humanity responds. Human scouts detected the approaching fleet weeks in advance. Warnings were sent to the Central Council on Earth, and fleets were mobilized. But the humans faced a dilemma. Their forces were still smaller than the combined fleets of the conquered. Victory would not come from numbers alone. It would come from strategy, discipline, and courage. Fleet Commander Ilara Miles, a brilliant strategist from Earth, gathered her captains. Her fleet consisted of humans from Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. She spoke to them with calm authority. "We may be outnumbered," she said, "but we are not defeated. The galaxy has underestimated us before. Today, we show them why mercy once given can never be ignored." The captains nodded, inspired by her confidence. They knew the story of the mercy once granted, the seed of humanity's resolve. It was more than legend now. It was their guiding principle. The battle begins. The Concord fleet entered the Callistra system, confident and unafraid. Their ships were large, armed with advanced weaponry and arranged in perfect formation. The conquered commanders sneered at the humans who dared to challenge them. But the human fleet moved differently. Ships did not form a single line. Instead, they split into multiple groups, surrounding the enemy in unpredictable patterns. Smaller vessels carried supplies and reinforcements, while heavier cruisers targeted the enemy's weak points. When the first weapons fired, the battle erupted with light and sound. Explosions lit the dark space while ships weaved through debris with precise coordination. Human pilots moved with instinct, their training and unity making them nearly untouchable. The conquered fleet, confident in their superiority, struggled to adjust. Their calculations had assumed humans would panic, scatter, or surrender. They had forgotten the lesson of centuries. The species once spared by the Karen could adapt, endure, and fight with determination no one expected. A shocking turn hours into the battle, the human fleet executed a maneuver that stunned the Concord commanders. Using fast, small ships, they slipped between the enemy lines, disabling key weapons and communications. Heavy cruisers followed, striking with precise accuracy at the Concord flagship. Alien captains could not believe what they were seeing. These humans, once considered insignificant, had coordinated a battle plan that rivaled even the most experienced fleets of the galaxy. "We underestimated them," one Concord officer shouted. How is this possible?" Commander Alara Miles received the report with calm satisfaction. Humanity had prepared for this day for decades, learning from past defeats, studying alien strategies, and training every generation to act as one. The mercy once given had allowed humanity time, not just to grow, but to learn how to survive and thrive against overwhelming odds. The turning point by the second day of the battle, the conquered fleet was faltering. Their formations were broken, their supply lines cut, and their morale shattered. Alien soldiers whispered in fear, realizing the humans they had dismissed were no ordinary species. "This is impossible," muttered one officer. "The ones spared once. They are not what we expected." Human forces pressed forward with relentless precision. Ships moved like dancers, striking, retreating, and striking again. Colonists on Callistra watched from orbiting stations, holding their breath as the humans defended their home with skill and courage. Every move was measured. Every strike was deliberate. Humanity's determination shone brightly, not just as strength but as unity, discipline, and spirit. Lessons learned. The battle did not end quickly. Many ships were damaged and human pilots were injured or lost, but their losses were fewer than those of the conquered. Humanity's ability to adapt, to coordinate, and to endure gave them the advantage. By the third day, the Concorde fleet began to retreat. They left behind wrecked ships, scattered survivors, and a lesson that would echo through their civilizations. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The humans cheered, but Commander Miles reminded them, "This is only the beginning. The galaxy may test us again. But today, we have proven that we will not rely on mercy. We will fight, we will endure, and we will rise stronger." Reputation. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread faster than the fastest human ship. Traders carried the story from system to system, speaking of the humans who had defied overwhelming odds. Some laughed, claiming luck had favored them. Others shivered, realizing they had misjudged the species they had ignored for so long. Within the Crimson Concorde, the defeat caused panic and debate. Some called for immediate retaliation. Others argued for caution. For the first time in decades, aliens across the galaxy began to whisper the old legend again. The story of how humans had been spared once by the Karen Dominion. But now it was no longer just a story. Now it was a warning. Humanity's promise on Earth. Leaders met to discuss the battle. Young cadets, colonists, and diplomats gathered in councils across the colonies. Humanity had survived the test, but they did not celebrate recklessly. Instead, they focused on the lessons learned. "Spared once," said a counselor in the United Planetary Government. "We have grown. Tested now, we have shown the galaxy our strength. But this is only the start. One day the galaxy will challenge us again. And we must be ready." From the youngest cadet to the oldest admiral, every human understood the truth. The mercy that had once saved them was no longer a shield. Their survival depended on their courage, unity, and determination. A warning to the galaxy, the Battle of Callistra became a turning point. Across alien civilizations, the phrase began to spread. The humans were spared once. Do not make the same mistake again. Aliens who had once laughed at Earth species now watched carefully. Some began to approach humans as allies. Others approached with caution, preparing for a future confrontation they knew could come. And deep in the stars, the Karen Dominion recorded the event quietly. Few remembered Admiral Thalrin's mercy, but now they understood the consequence. The species they had dismissed as insignificant had grown into something formidable. Humanity's legacy. As the fleets returned to Callistra, humans repaired their ships and rebuilt what had been damaged. Colonists celebrated quietly, proud not just of survival, but of the spirit that had carried them through the trial. In schools and training academies, the story was retold, not as myth but as history. The children learned that their ancestors had faced overwhelming odds and had survived because they remembered the lesson of mercy. The galaxy had tested humanity, and humanity had passed. Commander Alara Miles, watching the stars from her bridge, reflected quietly. "Once we were spared. Today we prove that mercy must never be taken for granted. Tomorrow we rise again, stronger than before. And with that, humanity's legend grew, not from the mercy given, but from the courage, unity, and spirit that had turned that mercy into a strength the galaxy could no longer ignore. The tale becomes legend. The galaxy had changed. The humans who had once been a fragile young species were now known as something far greater. Their fleets were strong, their colonies thriving, and their spirit unbroken. Across the stars, whispers of the humans who had been spared once began to spread, not as a tale of weakness, but as a story of strength, resilience, and legend. Even the Karen Dominion, the ancient empire that had first encountered Earth, watched carefully. Their records had long dismissed humanity as insignificant, but the Battle of Callistra had shown them otherwise. A species once deemed powerless had risen to challenge those who underestimated them. Recognition. Across civilizations, news of humanity's victories reached distant star systems. Alien civilizations that had once ignored Earth now reconsidered their stance. Traders, diplomats, and explorers all carried the same story. Humans were no longer the species to be dismissed. "They were spared once," said one alien commander quietly. "And look at what they have become. Imagine what they will do next." This reputation was a double-edged sword. Some approached humans with caution, seeking alliances. Others grew fearful, preparing defenses against a species they had once considered weak. The legend of mercy had become a warning, echoing across space. Admiral Thalrin's return on a quiet orbital station near Karen space. Admiral Thalrin, now elderly and largely forgotten, received reports of humanity's rise. His old scales were dulled with age, and his eyes, once sharp, now carried the weight of time. He read the messages carefully, absorbing the details of battles, strategy, and the unity of humans. A small smile touched his lips. The species he had once spared had grown beyond anything he could have imagined. The act of mercy, which had seemed almost insignificant at the time, had shaped the galaxy in ways few could foresee. He reflected on his decision decades earlier. At the time, he had not understood why he had spared Earth. Now, watching the results, he realized that humanity's potential had always been there, waiting for a chance to bloom. The Human Council back on Earth. The United Planetary Government held a council to discuss the future. Leaders from every colony gathered to share reports, plans, and strategies. The humans had learned that the galaxy would continue to challenge them. They had learned that power alone was not enough. Wisdom, unity, and courage were just as vital. Counselor Soren Kale spoke to the assembly. Humanity has grown from a species spared into a species respected and feared. We owe this not to luck but to determination. We have learned that mercy once given must be honored with strength, for weakness invites danger. The council agreed. Humanity would continue to expand, explore, and defend, but always with vigilance and care. They would never forget the mercy that had given them their first chance, and they would never again rely on it to survive. A lesson for the galaxy. Across alien civilizations, humans became an example. Species that had long been oppressed by larger empires looked to Earth as a symbol of hope. "They survived because they were spared once," said one diplomat from a distant world, "and they thrived because they refused to rely on anyone's mercy again." Let their example guide us. The story of humanity's mercy, survival, and rise became a teaching in academies, not just on Earth but across allied worlds. Young cadets learned the importance of preparation, unity, and courage. They learned that strength was not just about weapons or fleets, it was about spirit and determination. Humanity's legacy in space-on colonies across the stars, humans rebuilt and strengthened. They established schools, academies, and fleets. Scientists explored alien technology and developed new ways to travel, communicate, and defend. Artists and historians preserved the story of humanity's rise, reminding every generation of the lessons learned from the past. Even in distant systems, humans remembered the simple motto, "Spared once, never again." It was a reminder of their origin and a promise to the galaxy that they would never rely on mercy to survive. The Karen reaction. The Karen Dominion finally acknowledged humanity as a force in the galaxy. High-ranking officers debated how to respond. Some called for cautious observation. Others, remembering Admiral Thalrin's decision, wondered if humanity had always been destined to rise. "They were spared once," said one officer, "and now they have become a legend." Perhaps Admiral Thalrin saw something we could not. The Admiral himself, long retired, watched quietly from his station. He felt a mixture of pride and relief. One decision made decades ago had shaped the galaxy in ways he could scarcely have imagined. Humanity had honored the mercy given to them, not by weakness, but by becoming a species that no one could underestimate. Humanity as a galactic power over time, humanity's influence grew steadily. Their fleets patrolled contested areas, not as conquerors but as protectors of colonies, trade routes, and allies. Their diplomacy extended to distant civilizations, offering friendship, knowledge, and support. Yet wherever humans went, the memory of their mercy once granted remained. They did not boast about it. They did not rely on it. Instead, they used it as motivation, a quiet lesson in humility and resilience. The galaxy had learned a new truth. A species that had once been spared could rise to legendary heights if given the chance. And humanity, now aware of its strength, carried that truth forward in every mission, every settlement, and every battle they faced. The final reflection on Earth. Children looked up at the stars, dreaming of the future. Scholars wrote about history and strategy, blending lessons of the past with hopes for the future. Soldiers trained for exploration and defense, inspired by stories of courage, unity, and the victories that had shaped their species. In every corner of human space, one lesson remained clear. Mercy, once received, is not a gift to be wasted. It is a call to rise, to grow, and to become extraordinary. And so humanity's tale became legend. Across the galaxy, stories were told of the species that had once been spared by the Karen Dominion and had turned that mercy into unmatched strength. Humanity's promise to the star's commander, Ilara Miles, now an admiral, stood on the bridge of a massive exploration ship. She gazed at the distant stars, thinking of the journeys yet to come. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders, dangers, and opportunities. But humanity was ready. She spoke quietly to her crew. "We were given a chance once. That chance made us who we are. The galaxy may test us again, but we will rise stronger each time. Humanity will not rely on mercy. We will make our own destiny." Her words spread across the fleet, echoing through the corridors of ships, stations, and colonies. The legend of humanity was no longer just a story. It was a promise. And as the stars shimmered in the distance, humanity continued its journey, a species once spared, now remembered across the galaxy as a symbol of resilience, courage, and the power of hope. The galaxy had watched. The galaxy had tested, and humanity had risen.